Hey everybody, welcome back to the STR Investing Podcast. I'm your co-host Mark Lumpkin, and we're doing the Halloween special for 2025. We're telling 4 spooky stories with 4 incredible guests who have probably been through everything there is to see in the short-term rental space, right? When you're managing properties, when you own properties, you see some wild stuff that a lot of other people wouldn't even understand. So we're trying to bring you some of the craziest, spookiest stories to kick your Halloween off right. And today we've got Peter Douglas. He's a property manager. Peter, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Peter Douglas, as Mark said, and I own Hearthstone Property Management. We've been doing it for about 4 years now, and we operate rentals throughout the state of Pennsylvania.
Cool, man. How did you get into the short-term rental space? Just curious.
Yeah. So I actually started in the construction space. I was working for a guy, a local realtor. We were just flipping houses. Kind of got bored with that after like a year and a half, 2 years, and about the same time, he asked me to manage his portfolio of like long-term rentals. I didn't even know what a property manager was. I literally I think he asked me, and then an hour later I was like Googling it. I was like, what is a property manager? I didn't even know. So I got into that, and I think he had like 60 doors maybe at that time, all long-term. And that was literally 2019, right before COVID. Then COVID hit, nationwide moratorium, everybody's back on rent. It was horrible. It's a horrible time to be property managing. So anyway, it was an interesting time, did long-term, hated it. Unless you taking old grannies to court because they haven't paid their rent in 3 months, not really my thing. So anyway, about that time, he actually had, the same guy, he had a couple Airbnbs, part of his portfolio, and the one that I designed and was managing for him, that was kind of a new venture. And about that time, he was like, hey, did you ever think about, because we were talking about kind of the future and everything, he's like, do you like managing the Airbnb? Have you ever thought about that? And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've always enjoyed hospitality and I like real estate. And so maybe it's this cool little marriage. And so I decided let's go for it. So me and him started Hearthstone Property Management. Just started with a few properties. They were all his. So he kind of came with the properties. I kind of came with no experience, but whatever. And that was 2022, April of 2022. And then we kind of just started slowly growing from there. But that's kind of how I got started. Just kind of in over my head, not even knowing what I'm doing at all.
I love it, man. You're building the airplane as you're flying it, and I feel like a lot of people in this industry are doing that. So good for you, man. You're a couple years in. Are most of your properties in your local market, or what market are most of the properties in?
Yeah, so actually a little less than half right now actually are in the local market. So I live and work in Lancaster City. So if you're in Lancaster City, some of them are in the more rural parts of Lancaster, which is kind of county. Maybe 20 minutes from here, and then actually a little over half are western PA. And then I actually just signed a couple that are in the Poconos. So kind of throughout the state of PA, looking to grow, but right now we're about half in broader PA, and then half are kind of more local.
Cool, man. So you've been doing this a while, a couple years into it. You've seen lots of guests come and go. What's a spooky story? What's up? You gotta start walking us through, man. It's Halloween.
Yeah, it's Halloween. Oh my gosh. So I'll start at the beginning. So we have 3 Airbnbs that are in this village. They were actually the original ones that I started with. And it's a cool, cute little village. It's very historical. It was built by this local dam company back in the 1920s. It's a Tudor style, brick, slate roofs, really cool, cute little houses, right? So this would have been 2.5 years ago, maybe. Or almost 3 years ago now. We were walking through. So my business partner, he had this house that he owned that he wanted to turn into an Airbnb. And we were walking through it, and it was weird. I've walked through a lot of houses, and I'm sure you have, and some of them are just it sound how are people living like this? This one wasn't necessarily that, but it was just very she was a self-proclaimed witch. She had all sorts of everything, more than crystals, and she had 10 cats too, I swear. There were 8 to 10 cats, so keeping that stereotype alive. But anyway, so the house was super weird, and it was just dark, and I swear, I think she had all the shades drawn too, and it was midday on a September when we first toured it. I was like, what is going on? Anyway, so then we start the renovation process, get it all. We kind of go with this contemporary minimalist kind of vibe with it. It looks all nice, and we put on an Airbnb. And keep in mind, there's 2 other houses that are in the same village. And a few months in, I recognized, oh, this one's not doing as well. And I would say probably even with a year of it under management, it was probably doing about maybe a quarter of the revenue of the other houses. Sorry, not a quarter. It was 75%. It was like a quarter less, like 25% less revenue than the other houses. And they were pretty much like all the same. Like it was the same square footage, same number of bedrooms, baths, etc. So I was like, that's kind of weird. Like whatever, didn't think much of it. I was just like, maybe people just don't like the style. I don't know. So anyway, and the first thing that came up was about a year ago. So we were about like a year into it. And this guy messaged me. It was like late at night. It was like 10:30 p.m. probably. He messaged me on Airbnb. And they had just checked in. And he's like, hey man, love the place. Like it's great. He's like, but we were looking through the guidebook and we kind of saw these there were a couple of people that had written in it about like seeing this like little boy around. Like this, and they were like, this like totally freaked me and my wife out. And I think one of them said it was like, I don't know if they said it was like the spirit of a little boy or a little boy, but either way, it was like this little boy. And there were like a couple of them that mentioned it in the guidebook.
Had you seen that in the guidebook, by the way? Peter, had you seen that in the guidebook?
I don't check it. Like people just writing it, and I took it after that. I was like, oh gosh, we got to get this out of here. So he's like, we feel really uncomfortable. Like we're kind of just like weird with that kind of stuff. So we're gonna leave. So I was like, okay. And they left. And then I texted my cleaner, like I think the next day, and I was like, hey, like really weird thing happened yesterday. And I told her about it, and she's like, oh, that's so weird. She's like, so she had like a 3 or 4 year old at the time. She doesn't clean her anymore, and he would kind of come and just kind of like play in the house or outside the house. And she said a couple of times, or 1 or 2 times, he was like playing in the yard, and he like picked up this like Matchbox car that was just like there. And he's like, oh, this is like the little boys. And she's like, what are you talking about? What little boys? And he's like, oh, that little boy over there. And she's like, okay, like whatever. That's kind of weird. And so then we put it back. I think it was actually off Airbnb for like a little bit as like a midterm. We found like a 3 or 4 month person there. Hadn't heard anything. Put it back on. Most of this summer was okay until this is literally like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I got a message from a guest, and he said, hey man, kind of like the same thing. He's like, we're thinking of leaving tonight because like the first couple nights were okay, but it started getting kind of spooky, and we think someone broke in, or we're really not sure. And anyway, so that was the message he sent. So I was like, okay, that's weird. So I gave him a call, and we were talking on the phone about it, and he said, so, first couple nights were okay. And then he said, but it was like the third day when they came back to the property, and they noticed that there was like in the one closet, which they swore they had checked before, there was like this blanket and like a pair of shoes and I think like a water bottle or something like that. And so they're like, oh, somebody broke in. Like, that's weird. And I was like, that's like, unless the cleaner broke in or I did myself, they get a unique code. It's unique to the guest. And these are old casement style windows, pretty hard to like, you'd have to kind of like force them open in order to break in from the outside. There's no evidence of that. So I thought, well, that's strange. And then he kind of like changed his tone. He's like, I wouldn't normally share this, but something kind of personal happened too. And I was like, okay, like what happened? And he said the one night, I think he said it was like the second night, he said me and my wife both had like the same nightmare. And it was like this nightmare of this guy like attacking them and like violently like killing them or something in their dream. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's not great. Okay, that's interesting. And I told him, like, I was like, yeah, to be honest with you, we actually have had a couple other weird things happen at this property. And I told him about the tenant that used to live there too. And he's like, oh man, he's like all worried and everything. And he's like, you need to get a priest out there and everything. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I'm a Christian. Like, I actually already prayed over it. But he's like, no, man. He's like, you need to go to the next level. You got to get a priest. They got to, like, exorcise that thing. So
oh my
he
gosh,
was, like,
dude.
all convinced, all freaked out. So, that was we still have it. We haven't had anything happen since. But I probably should get that priest pretty shortly here. So
You definitely should, man. Dude, that's crazy. All right, so did your cleaner, when you brought it up to your cleaner, was she just like, yeah, I see spooky things here as well, or did she have anything to say about that?
No, she didn't. I mean, she said like her son like made a couple weird comments about this little boy. So I don't know who the heck this little boy is, but
But your cleaner's kid saw a little boy, you've got guests saying that there's a little boy and leaving it in the guest book. It's a good thing you got rid of that guest book, because that is definitely like not great, dude.
Absolutely. Yeah,
dude, that's crazy, man. Have you ever stayed a night in that house?
No, I haven't. I know sometimes people recommend like, oh, you should stay a night in Airbnb, and I have with like a lot of them. That one I never have. But the weird thing is, like, I always like that one. Like, I always feel like it's like peaceful in there. Maybe too peaceful. I don't know. So no, I've never stayed a night. I don't know if I want to now, to be honest with you, unless I get a priest in there. So Airbnb's doing all these services and everything now. They're trying to push. Maybe that needs to be a service. Airbnb priest. If you have a ghost inside your Airbnb, get a priest out there.
Dude, that's crazy, man. So you got a haunted Airbnb, man, and you've legitimately had guests say, we've seen a little boy, and people having crazy nightmares. Did anybody else say they had crazy nightmares at that house?
No. I mean, not that guests usually tell you what their dream experiences are. I don't know if you have guests reaching out and saying, hey, Mark, I had a great dream last night, or I had a nightmare.
No, that does not happen. But that's crazy, man. Well, thank you for sharing, dude. I mean, there's just crazy stuff that happens when you're a short-term rental host, and a lot of it is just parties and people being stupid and people leaving stuff behind. But that's definitely spooky that you had multiple guests writing in your guest book, and that your cleaner's kid had seen another kid. So there's something going on in that house, man. I might recommend you go stay a couple nights just to see if you see anything or you feel anything.
I don't know if I wanted to be honest with you. The most I do with scary things is I go to like the theme parks, and I hate them. And so I don't know if but maybe we need to start like advertising it as like a paranormal experience.
You might need to, man. You might need to theme down on that. There's some rich witch history in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. There's some crazy stories. I was looking. There's like some witch sisters. There's like some crazy photos from like the early 1920s where people think that there was witches in those hills and stuff. And so yeah, man, you guys might need to play on that.
There probably are. Actually, and that reminds me, there is this weird, like, I forget what it's called when it's like there's like a word for it, when it's like an animal, but not an animal, like a supernatural animal, kind of like weird thing. And anyway, we have one actually in the Conestoga area, and I forget what it's called. I should have looked this up previously, but there's
like a chupacabra, like a chupacabra,
yeah, kind of like that,
exactly,
yeah. Or like the New Jersey Devil or something like, yeah, there's like weird, there's one like that people have like, you can look it up, and there's like folklore, and like people even recently have said like, oh, I saw this in the woods, and it's like a mile from that house. So I don't know what's going on. Come to Lancaster.
That's crazy, man. I love it. Well, hey, thanks so much, Peter, for connecting with us, man. Thanks for telling us your spooky story on Halloween. And everybody, tune in. Next guest is jumping in right now, and we've got 4 more crazy stories coming at you guys. Thanks again, Peter.
Thanks, Mark.
In this episode, we have another spooky story for you. And so we've got Jason from STR Logic, and we're super excited to hear his crazy story. But first, Jason, tell us a little bit about who you are. Introduce yourself to everybody.
So, Jason DeLoretti, we just started STR Logic earlier this year. We offer consulting and fractional support for those in the STR market. We are started by operators, built by operators for operators, and we'd love to, help any of you that might need some help operationally, whether big or small, tech stack, whatever, we got you covered.
Cool. Give us a little experience on your background, because you guys have been around the game. You and your partner have been around the game for quite a while.
We worked both my co-founder and I have worked in hotels for years, come from that background. We've transitioned into STRs many, many years ago. We've worked at operators, both massive, and then helped grow some from small to large, from the ground up. Recently, we worked at Summer, helped manage all of their properties from start to finish, and yeah.
Cool. I love it, man. That's really cool. And you're in a great part of the country, or a great part of the world, man. You're out in Italy, so those of us that are not in Tuscany drinking wine and eating pasta, we're a little jealous. But let's get after it, man. Tell us this spooky story. How's this thing start out?
So I used to work in resolutions for obviously one of the one of the larger property managers in the U.S. And so it goes, this couple was staying, actually their kids were there as well, and this guy walks downstairs, and on the couch is a guy completely covered in blood, like head to toe, just lacerated all over the couch.
This is like in the middle of the night?
No, he woke down in the morning to make coffee. So he walks down in the morning and just finds this guy on the couch. Not knowing what's going on, he's like, what in the world? So all the escalations, everything would come to myself and another guy. So I ended up talking to the guest, and then obviously operations jumped in. But as the story goes, this guy was just high out of his mind and took an Uber home. He claimed he used to live at this house, so he thought he was coming home. Well, when he tried to get into the house, obviously he couldn't, so he busted out the garage window and climbed through. So again, cutting himself to shreds, as he obviously is out of his mind, he had no idea, just cut himself to shreds coming through and came in and just passed out on the couch. The guest had no idea. They woke up in the morning and just found this guy. They didn't hear anything at night, so literally just walked down and just finds this guy. The crazier part of this story, although if that wasn't crazy enough, the guest who was staying there was totally calm. He was like almost apologizing to me. He's like, I can't believe you guys have to deal with stuff like this. I know you guys couldn't prevent this. Like, I've dealt with so many crazy stories where people, like, the microwave doesn't work and they want their whole stay for free. This guy was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm sorry for you. Like, this is nuts.
Do you remember where the house was at, Jason? Like, what part of the country was the house in?
It was in California, so I don't remember the market. It's been so long ago when this happened, but yeah, I mean, the cops came, they took this guy away. The guy himself was like...
Did the guest wake the guy up, or did the cops come wake the guy up?
Yes, the guest actually woke the guy up, and they end up having a cordial conversation. The guy who was out of his mind was actually super apologetic as well. So it was like this strange story, because it's like, the guy was like, I'd never do this, I'm so sorry. I mean, obviously the cops took him away, but yeah, it was one of those unique situations where luckily things didn't get escalated, in the home, or things didn't go even crazy after that. But yeah, it was one of those wild ones I've had to deal with.
Dude, so did you guys get a 5-star review from this guest?
No, the guy ended up just not leaving a review, which was
that's
fine.
Probably
right?
the best case scenario.
Nothing to comment on. We ended up moving the guest somewhere else. I obviously worked through the guy with the resolution, and we obviously got him a refund, even though he didn't ask for anything. Got him a refund, got him taken care of, and I just said, if you please don't write a review, that'd be better.
Yeah, dude, that's not ideal to have even if it's a 4-star or 3-star that said, I woke up in the morning to make coffee and there was some dude laying on the couch covered in blood, just broken. It's interesting that I would think that if I'm sleeping in a house and someone breaks a window and breaks into the home, that I would hear them and wake up, but maybe not. I don't know.
You would think, but the guy had kids upstairs, everything, and no one heard anything. They just came down to find this craziness on the couch.
Yeah, thank God it was him that came down and found it, and not like the kids. Because sometimes my kids will get out of bed before me in the morning, go down and get some food or whatever, Right. They come upstairs screaming, Daddy, there's somebody on the couch. Like, what?
Yeah, you think they're joking. Yeah, okay, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's wild, man. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing with us, Jason. It's cool that it kind of all resolved itself and there was no major blow up. Because, it could have been a nightmare. If you would have had a bad guest, that could have just been a total horror story, horrible review, all just nothing but headaches. So
no, totally. And I've dealt with the opposite, where it's like things out of your control happen, but I had to deal with somebody getting shot off site, and the guests were near this, and there's nothing you can do, but unfortunately it can go bad for you for reviews and you can't get that stuff removed. Whereas this one ended up turning out well despite the horrible circumstances.
I love it, man. And I'm assuming you guys just jumped on it quick. Can you walk us through the resolution? Because it's probably good for people to hear, where they're like, oh, how did you make sure that the guest was cool, and how'd you get him moved, and just what did that resolution look like for them right off the bat?
I think the quickest thing, especially working with highly escalated resolutions, is to get on the phone with them immediately. I think listening is probably by far your biggest ally. I've always said the biggest thing when I'm talking to somebody with an escalated resolution is I want them to feel like I'm sitting on the same side of the table talking to them, not negotiating across the table from them. So I don't want them to be feeling like, okay, I'm trying to work this out and we're negotiating something out. I want them to be like, oh my God, I'm sitting next to you. How do we work this out? This is obviously something we don't want from you. So I think jumping on it, obviously we consulted with the lawyers, what, is there anything that you want us to do, whatever. So I would take some direction from that. But again, I think the biggest keys to handling any escalation is listening by far, giving them empathy, and trying to work alongside of them. and then trying to create a solution more than just handing out refunds. I think that's like always my last resort. It's more just like, okay, let's get you moved, let's get something taken care of. I think even doing something special for someone, giving them an amenity and trying to do something thoughtful is more meaningful than just trying to throw money at it a lot of times.
Yeah, super interesting. I think that like you said, jumping on the phone with them quickly and just listening to them and trying to help come up with a solution and hearing out their frustrations. A lot of times people just want to vent. And that was a super unique situation, right? Super weird, couldn't predict it. But, dirty toilet, cleaner missed a towel, whatever. There's always going to be stuff, and just let them vent a little bit is important. It was interesting. I'm just coming back from the VRMA, and there was an operator that I heard about who actually was like, well, we don't handle upset clients for 4 hours. We put them on ice for 4 hours because we want them to calm down before we actually talk with them about a solution. And I'm like, that is the worst possible option on planet Earth. If you leave someone festering for 4 hours, they're going to get angrier. They're not going to calm down. They're going to get worse. So
No, totally. That's craziness.
doing it quickly, jump on the phone quickly, see how you can help, hear them out, and hopefully anybody listening doesn't have to deal with a guest that's covered in blood laying on their couch in the morning. It's great to connect with you, Jason. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Happy Halloween to everybody, and check out the next one. And in this segment, we're talking with Lynn Markham, who's from Southern Cali. He's actually at one of his short-term rentals right now in Utah. So Lynn, introduce yourself, man.
Yeah, my name's Lynn. My wife and I have been operating Airbnbs for almost 4 years now. And yeah, we like it. We've got 8 Airbnbs. We also do college student rentals, mostly in southern Utah.
How'd you guys get started, Lynn?
I've been working in intellectual property for, about 14 years. And I like that work, but I wanted freedom. I wanted financial freedom. And so we decided to buy some real estate. We bought a college student rental house. We put some college guys in there. Everybody thought we were crazy idiots for putting in 20-year-old kids into our rental property. Everybody said that they destroy it. They've been great. We added some more college student rentals. We decided to try Airbnb. It worked well. And then we just been adding. So we've got 14 places now. So we're just kind of building up and yeah, it's been good. We've got 8 Airbnbs and the rest are college student rentals.
That's awesome, man. That's really, really cool. Are they all around the country? Or are you guys hyper-focused in a certain area or market?
We've been hyper-focused in southern Utah. I think we're kind of done buying here. We're looking to branch out to other places, but we're just kind of building and testing out here. It's like our little sandbox to kind of see what works well before we branch out to other markets.
Cool. Really, really exciting. You guys are managing a lot of those properties remotely, right? Because if you're in Southern Cali?
Yeah, we manage all of them remotely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, dude, it's always good to talk to people from all around the country. And I feel like oftentimes we talk to people that have they're CEO of this huge short-term rental company and they manage 5,000 listings. And it's just not practical for most of our listeners, which is, it's cool to talk to people like you and me, right? That just have a couple properties. We're getting going. We're buying one at a time. And we're doing things the hard way, which is exciting. And I'm sure we can learn a lot from you. I'd love to have you on at some point to do a full episode if you'd like to come in, share your journey and talk through us. But for the sake of this shortened episode, man, let's just dive right into it. So you guys are self-managing your own homes. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then talk me through how does this spooky story start? How did this thing, talk us through the story.
So the first Airbnb we bought, it needed some work. So we fixed it up nice and we kind of put our heart and soul into it. And it was just kind of like your nice, very normal Airbnb, pretty basic, if I'm being honest, but, thoughtful design, but in kind of in a basic way. So we listed, this is January, February, 2022. And when somebody makes some kind of food dish and then they're kind of they give it to you and they're kind of watching you eat it. And then they're kind of mouthing it as you're opening your mouth, It felt kind of like that. We had this work crew book it as our first guest, right? And we're just on pins and needles waiting to see what their experience is like. And we're just expecting oh, this is going to be great. So then the lady who booked it, she's not staying there. And she booked it for these really nice Hispanic workers, this crew. They're there to do drywall or something. And from out of town. Anyway, in this one room where my wife installed wallpaper, apparently the adhesive we chose for that wallpaper was not very effective. So you have this really nice Catholic Hispanic guy in the basement in this room with wallpaper that's not adhered to the wall perfectly. We don't know that yet. And as he's lying on his bed texting his family, the wallpaper falls down from the wall. He's thinking poltergeist. He's doing some Hail Marys. This guy thinks there's a ghost in our house, right? So then he messages he messages a lady and she sends us this panic message like, hey, I think your house might be haunted. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, this is the last thing I expected from our very first guest, like literally our very first booking. And so she's like, I think I need to get my guys out of there. And I'm like, oh geez. And we're just looking to like, okay, yeah, Airbnb was a really this is the universe telling us that Airbnb was just a really dumb idea for us, you know, like this is just, let's just rent this place to college students and be done with it. So then I called her. I was like, hey, what's going on? Or I messaged her. She couldn't talk. I was like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, the wallpaper fell from the wall and this guy is freaked out. So I'm like, oh, what do I do? So then I just started cracking some jokes is what I did. I don't know. I started saying a bunch of dumb stuff like, yeah, okay, well, we try to make it as spooky as possible, but, you know, and just kind of throwing some stuff out there. And then I let her know, hey, this is what's up. We used the wrong kind of spray adhesive for the wallpaper. And she's like, oh, okay. And then the key was we sent like a dozen cookies from, you know, the cookie company. What's it called? Gosh dang it.
Or something?
Yeah, thanks. We sent like a dozen cookies from Crumble, which was probably overkill, but we're like, all right, we got to nail this first booking, you know? And I said, hey, whenever I have a really spooky experience, the only thing that makes me feel better is a bunch of cookies, you know? And so we sent over the cookies and then I sent over a bunch of like ridiculous memes to the lady. And then she was laughing.
Did you guys end up with a 5-star review?
5-star review.
Good for you, man. I know that.
And then they booked like 3 or 4 more times actually after that.
Yeah, those work crews can be solid because they'll come back and back and back. We'll have people like that stay at our house too. And I know that feeling of being a first-time host and having your first guest and being like, everything's got to go perfect. And you're just sitting there just waiting for them to message, check in, check out. And that would be pretty funny for them to be like, oh, this house is haunted. And you're like, oh, shit. Did you guys ever sleep in the house before you actually listed it?
We did, yeah.
So you knew that it wasn't haunted. You knew right away. You're like, oh, this is just.
No, it was just like a totally normal townhome in like a super normal area. It was just, you know. The tricky thing is like when you're doing wallpaper, and especially if the wall has like weird texture, like orange peel type texture, it can be tough to get it right, you know? And so we ended up just painting a pattern. My wife just painted like a nice pattern on the wall. So we're like, all right, we're not dealing with wallpaper in this room again, you know? But yeah, I mean, we made quite a bit of money from those groups. I mean, those guys, the work crews are usually pretty good. They're usually messy. They don't follow house rules. And like, they eat in their rooms, they leave the sink, disgusting mess. So the cleaners hate it, but it's so solid because those guys, they don't need weekend bookings, they just need weekdays, which is obviously when it's usually slow. So if you have a crew book your place, that can be gold. It can be like a little vein of gold.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't agree more, man. Yeah, and then they come back often, especially if they're in town working for you know, a big project that they're coming back to. And I've always had those crews extend their stays too. They're like, hey, actually, can we stay another week? So in the
it's the best.
Season, super nice. Well, cool, man. I'm glad that you guys were able to overcome that. I'm glad you were able to get a 5-star review. Lynn, let's definitely have you back on, man, for a full episode. I'd love to hear your journey and your story. And man, happy Halloween to everybody who's listening in, and thanks for joining the STR Investing Podcast.